You can have these grand visions to change the world, build the next billion-dollar unicorn company, but it all comes down to execution.
Welcome to the 9 to 5 Quitters Club, the podcast uncovering the creator entrepreneurs at the forefront of a work revolution. Today we're speaking with AJ Eckstein. AJ is the CEO and founder of Creator Match, an innovative company that facilitates brand deals for LinkedIn creators. We unpack AJ's drive to quit his corporate 9 to 5.
The difficult part about working at a large company is you own a small piece of something much bigger, and the change that you can make, even if you crush it in your job, is so small.
How he developed the unique positioning of Creator Match.
So many software companies out there focus on helping creators grow. My thing is, what's the point of growth if you can't monetize?
And make sure to stick around till the end for some invaluable tips on how you can land brand deals as a LinkedIn creator.
Can you think of a CRM for your sponsorship? Can you think of APIs to pull all of your affiliate partnerships into one place?
This episode is a perfect example of the unconventional opportunities that exist within this burgeoning industry and how you can build a thriving business helping creators and brands develop better relationships. Let's dive in, and we hope you enjoy this episode with AJ Eckstein.
I did recently quit my 9 to 5 corporate consulting job, so we'll definitely go super deep now that I'm outside of that company and can give some tips for all the listeners and watchers today. But yeah, so I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Creator Match. At the core, we match brands with LinkedIn creators. I'm a LinkedIn creator myself, and over the last few years, I've built up an audience and realized that it is virtually impossible to go out and try to educate brands saying that there is value on LinkedIn. And on the creator side, I have friends who have 500, 600,000 followers on LinkedIn, get massive reach per post, have a really engaged audience, and have never monetized on LinkedIn. So we're really trying to change that. We're trying to help brands crush it through LinkedIn influencer marketing or LinkedIn creator marketing. So on the brand side, we operate as an agency or tech-enabled managed service. We work with companies like the Teachables of the world to help them build out their influencer strategy on LinkedIn, help them build out some sponsored content. And then, of course, we can whitelist that content, which is very new. Working with your paid ads team to see of the sponsored content that performed the best. Can we put ad spend to boost that content from the creator's profile, from their image, from their face, from their name, and really boost that versus an ad creator from, let's say, the Teachables profile on LinkedIn. And on the creator side, we're building out tools to better equip these LinkedIn creators to grow and especially monetize their content. I think so many software companies out there focus on helping creators grow. But my thing is, what's the point of growth if you can't monetize? Not that everything is about monetization, but we have to make a living somehow, or else you're just on this endless hamster wheel of content. It's not just about impact, it's also about income, right? And of course you want to make impact, but you do have to get paid for your work at some point. Whether it's year 1 or year 10, there has to be some day that you receive your first paycheck. So I love to write, and I actually write for Fast Company. I'm a journalist that writes specifically for their work-life section. So cover anything from the future of work, Gen Z, leadership, productivity, B2B influencer marketing. The last thing is I'm also an instructor for LinkedIn Learning. So I have 2 courses with LinkedIn Learning, and I also have a course with Teachable, of course. So can definitely talk more about some strategies to really understand how the course market works, how to really build trust with your audience. The hardest thing to do is to get them to pay, but how to give them value before you actually introduce a price tag.
In your journey to quit your 9 to 5 or to get out of that, when did you set that as a goal? Was that ever a goal?
I was working in corporate consulting or management consulting for 3+ years, started in the pandemic, and nothing but good things to say about the experience. I'm really glad that I kind of saw what the corporate life was like before diving out and kind of doing my own thing. I think it is really helpful to see both sides because we also work with a lot of corporations. We have to know how things work. We know they move very slowly. We have to know how budgets work, how these teams work. And I think having that experience gives you credibility, the understanding to realize how to get your foot in the door and really understand how these deals work. So I'm really fortunate for my time there. It was exceptional. I really dove into a lot of different side hustles during those 3 years. I had a podcast called The Final Round, where I interviewed recruiters to help job seekers advance past the final round interview. And my Teachable course, ironically, was how to land a job with AI. And it was through podcasts and the learnings that I realized that a lot of job seekers have an unfair advantage if they're using these tools to help them get an interview and get the job. And if you're not using it, you're at a disadvantage. So again, those 3 years were exceptional. I really learned a ton and met some amazing people, and my network has just expanded like crazy. But I think it got to a point where, especially in consulting, you have these folks called lifers, right? These managing directors who have been there since the days they were an intern. And they literally were there for 30 years. And I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I asked myself, do I want to be at one company for 30 years? And it just wasn't for me. The difficult part about working at a large company is you own a small piece of something much bigger. And the change that you can make, even if you crush it in your job, is so small. And I wanted to own 100% of what I was doing. And I had a lot of conversation with some founder friends. And these corporations aren't going anywhere. You can always get a new job. Of course, the market today is not great, but you can always still apply. And you can argue that there's a big risk in jumping, but you can also argue that there's a bigger risk in staying. The people that I look up to in terms of where I want my life to be in 5, 10, 20, 40 years, they had to take a risk. Where I'm at right now, I'm almost 26 and I don't have anything that I'm depending on. I'm just myself and my suitcase. I travel a ton. I'm in New York at the moment. I said this is the best time to take a risk and to swing for something versus in 10 years, maybe when I have a family and kids, it's going to be very different. So that was my personal choice. Of course, if you're someone who loves the 9 to 5, that's amazing and you should stay with that. But if you're someone who wants more, the thrill, and also the crazy stress and all the emotions that come with it, sure. You never know. Maybe today's the day that you should take a chance. And of course, do things that don't just jump and say, I'm going to figure it out, but at least start making those steps. Say, am I getting enough traction? Am I building an email list? Do I have content that could turn into a course with Teachable or a paid community or whatever it is before you jump? So when you jump, you already have that traction ready to then just put gasoline on the fire and get going.
With the many different tasks or roles you have to play, is there a specific role that you really identify with or that you can see like, I will still be doing this in my 80s?
I'm a builder. I really love to take something from 0 to 1. The most basic example when I was a kid is I was one of those kids that had a bedroom filled with Legos. My parents and I had to build shelves for all the Legos that I built. And I love to build. And I think if I wasn't going down the business route, I always thought about architecture because I loved building something from scratch. So I think the building aspect is the most fun. The vision is amazing as well. But what I've learned is it all comes down to execution. And I think especially in corporate or in consulting, a lot of times the issue is that you work with your client. You say, here is the blueprint of the roadmap to climb Mount Everest. Here, Jonah, here's the paper. Good luck. I'm out. I'm going to get lunch. And very few people can say, okay, not only here's the blueprint, but let me go help you climb it and actually implement our game plan. And I think startups, you can have these grand visions to change the world, build the next billion-dollar unicorn company, but it all comes down to execution. So I think back in the day, I was always like, oh, I can't tell anybody my idea, my vision, because it's mine, they're going to steal it. It truly comes down to the teams and companies that can execute the best for their users or their audience. I think right now I'm working in the business. I'd love to be someone who works on the business to find great talent because I've been on the recruiting and career side for years now and chatting with these recruiters, and I know how to pick, okay, if this person's going to really drive value versus this person's in it maybe just for the money. And those first few hires are so important. So I'd love maybe the next time we have a podcast part 2 in the next 6 to 12 months saying that our team has grown exponentially and those first few hires have been instrumental in our success. So really molding the team, the strategy, and then helping everybody fire on all their individual kind of verticals or business needs.
I get from creators a lot. I ask, which one of these things do you identify? And it's actually something different. It's not titles that really exist in the corporate space. Yep. Dara Denny yesterday was a creative. Jack was like a storyteller. You're saying a builder. I love that this economy is creating new professions that are more tied to an identity and less like just a job.
A lot of creators are a one-person team. So you are the creator, you're the creative, you're the sponsorship manager, you are the accountant, the financial, you do everything. And of course, the goal is to figure out what you're best at. And I think what people forget is like what fills your cup. And for me, I can work crazy hours of the day if I'm doing something that I love. Of course, in the business world or the creator world, you can't always do that. And I think that's the difference of a one-person team versus someone that's building something bigger than just themselves. And it's hard. I think for me, one of the hard things is, and I think anybody in the crowd can listen and understand and resonate, that you always think that only Jonah can do everything. Only AJ can do everything. I've done it for 3+ years now. I know everything. But I think it's taking the ego out of the table. Let's say that you are someone who edits these podcasts and you have a ton of experience, but I guarantee you there's somebody who could do it just as well, if not better, and cheaper, so that you could focus on more episodes to pump out for your audience, more content, more real estate to get sponsorships, etc. I think for me, I'm doing a little bit of everything right now, but I'm trying to find people who can take over some of my workload to double down on what I specifically need to do to really grow the business.
We'll be right back after this short break. This podcast is brought to you by Teachable and therefore has no sponsors. So we just wanted to take a quick moment to encourage you to go check out Creator Match, where AJ is helping brands and LinkedIn creators work together in a smarter and more profitable way. Creators like AJ are the reason this podcast exists, so supporting them helps support our ability to bring you more of their stories and lessons. You can find more from AJ at creatormatch.com, which is also linked in the show notes or description wherever you're watching or listening. Okay, now back to talking to AJ. When I work with creators a lot, I think the hardest part for them about scaling their business is knowing where they're going to get the most value to invest. Obviously, you need to be bringing in some money to be able to pay someone, but then still, who do you hire first? How are they going to help you? If you were giving advice to someone who's ready to hire, who's the right hire to start with?
So I'll give you a quick analogy. And I'm actually staying with my cousin in New York right now. And the analogy is about him. So he is an incredible artist. Shout out Noah. And I realized that he loves to paint. He hates marketing his work and selling his work, because then it goes from a passion to an actual business or a side hustle. The true example of a creative, someone who loves to create and just does it for fun. He doesn't need to get paid for the next 100 years and he would still be painting. Kind of like Mr. Beast, he started out by just, he loves to make videos. I think for the best LinkedIn creators is the one who love to provide value to their audience. But there's also the other side where people love to sell sponsorships and they love to think about their creator business as a business and not just as a YouTuber. So I think there are two very distinct roles in any creator business. And you have to ask yourself, which are you better at? Which do you enjoy more? And which should you double down on? And I would say majority of creators are the best at creating. So maybe it makes sense to bring on someone who has a ton of experience in the sponsorship world, to whether they act as your manager or act as chief operating officer, whatever it is, so that you could just double down on creating and they could fill all of your creation with more sponsors, more affiliate partnerships, more whatever it may be. Most creators do both in the early days, but as you grow, thinking about what, again, fills your cup, because that's where you'll find the most passion and lead to the least amount of burnout. And there's so much burnout in the creator world. It's because there's people doing too much that they don't want to do.
Where do you find those people?
I would say the best people that I've found are the ones that are in your audience. Let's say Teachable is an example, right? If you are truly going to make the best hire, it should be someone who is already in the Teachable audience. Bonus points if they've launched something on Teachable, right? Sure. But if they are a subscriber to your newsletter, or maybe they're listening in this pod, that's the first place to start. So I was saying the best hiring is through your own channels. And from there, then you can branch off into, okay, LinkedIn jobs and Indeed and whatever it is, especially when you're small and you're doing one or two early hires. They're so important. You want people to be obsessed about what you're building, believe in it, because they're not going to be focused on the salary. They're going to be focused on truly what the vision is. Even for the final round, we were doing an internship class. We just made a LinkedIn post through our own channels. And we got so many people reaching out saying, you helped me find a job. I've learned so much from you. I love what you're doing. I'd love to help. Here's where my experience lies. Here's where I can add value. And that was the most organic way to find and tap into talent. So I would say start in your own audience. If you're a YouTuber, shout out and say, hey, like in your episode, almost like an ad roll, hey, I'm looking for a video editor, or put it in the, the show notes, the video notes, whatever it is, and start there. And people already would be familiar with you versus having to do research on who was Jonah, what is Teachable, what is this knowledge marketplace, whatever it may be. And I think that's the best place to start.
Was there a specific light bulb moment for you when you were like, I'm going to pursue this other thing? And then also, was that the idea to go and build a business, or how baked was that concept when you came across it?
It's a good question. So there was a moment where I received my bonus for the year in consulting, and it was the same amount that I received in one paid speaking event. And I'm not a full-time speaker by any means, but I've done tons of speaking events. I mean, probably 2 years of just free speaking events, just build my speakers' real footage experience. A lot of it was virtual during the pandemic. And then it was starting to get to the point where I understood how pricing worked. I would bake in LinkedIn post, pre and post event marketing on top of the prep to do speaking at these events. And I literally had one speaking event that was just so lucrative that it was the same bonus that I had for the entire year in consulting for about probably 10 hours of work. And it hit me. That was one indicator where I was like, wow, what if I bet on myself? And I've had so many amazing people in my network, or what you can call your personal, like AJ's board of advisors. And they've always said, I believe in you. If someone said, if you were an NFT, I'd buy you. And if you were a stock, I'd bet on you. Obviously, you're thankful. But aside from that, it's just very close people saying you are going to do great things. But it hit me, I can't do great things at a company that I don't own entirely or have substantial equity in. And if I wasn't going to be a life for them, what was I going to be doing? And the second indicator, since the consulting firm that I worked at primarily worked with some of the largest media and tech clients, all of our clients were doing mass layoffs. They were doing major cost cutting, and they weren't investing in any new initiatives. So the first thing that you cut when you are a big company is you cut consultants, right? Because it's not a must to have unless it's the certain type of consulting. But my role, I was consulting for a very large public tech company, got replaced by somebody offshore because they were just cheaper labor. So I rolled off of my project and I was on what's called being on the bench in consulting, where you're in between projects looking for something new. So between getting the same bonus as I did for a paid speaking event, being on the bench and kind of like, is this the world telling me there's a sign that I should be leaving? And then some other indicators, as well as slowly inching in more and more into the LinkedIn creator world, seeing some traction, having a lot of conversations with creators and brands, seeing the brands want to do this, don't know how, seeing the creators want to invest in this, don't have the tooling. I realized that it was enough to take a leap. And then just, having the confidence to just say, like, the time is now. The last thing I'll say is that the job market is not very hot right now. So again, you can argue that's the time to keep your job as much as you can and overperform. You can also say it wasn't like I was getting 20 offers left and right for 3 times my salary.
Right.
It was that there was nothing else out there. And yes, I could have stayed in my job and I've been a top performer for 3 years, but I thought it was the best time to jump because either everybody was getting laid off and starting their own thing, or you can go start your own thing and there's not the next best opportunity. And it's so important to also just get your idea validated by core users, our LinkedIn creators, by core brands, and just some friends who are founders and saying, have you hit these specific goals? And traction goals could be a revenue number. It could be a user number. It could be, I have 1,000 signups. It could be, I have a newsletter. People want this. And just getting an idea of, okay, if I jump and I put gasoline on this fire and focus on something entirely, can I make it successful? Last thing I'll share with you, Jonah, on this topic is throughout those last 3 years, I've done every side project, passion project, side hustle. I had a podcast, I had a YouTube channel, I had the Teachable course, I was a LinkedIn creator, I've done everything. I worked around my 9 to 5 before and after and weekends like crazy. But I think one of the things that really hit me throughout that process of doing so many things is the switching cost. So on top of the hours that you gain by now being a full-time fill in the blank, founder, creator, operator, whatever it is, there are so many switching costs. So what I mean by that is on a daily basis, I'm checking Microsoft Teams, I'm checking Microsoft Outlook, I'm checking my Microsoft Calendar, and that's for my corporate job. And then after that, I was checking my Google Calendar. I was checking 3 different emails. I was checking Google Chat, Slack, Google Docs here, Google Docs there. And it was just like every day I'm getting pulled in a million places. So my idea generation was very limited as well. Now when I'm going all in on one thing and I'm really trying to stay hyper focused on just Creator Match, going so deep every day, I'm thinking of new ideas of where we should pivot, where we should iterate, what our users want, things that I see. And I feel like there's so much more value in not having those switching costs on top of the time that I've gained to focus on one thing. When you're going all in and saying, I want to be the best YouTuber, nothing else matters. Or I want to be the best course creator, nothing else matters. You'd be shocked at how much better the output and the outcome could be from that.
What is it like to talk to your family and friends about what you do? Did they get what you were doing? Was there skepticism from your coworkers in that? Or like, how was that process?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have many conversations with coworkers, I would say at the time, just because it didn't seem like it made the most sense to have those conversations. I mean, of course, I had some key mentors, and I was very honest with my manager when I was on the bench looking for a new project. I basically had the conversation saying, hey, if I can't find something that I really enjoy and I'm passionate about in the next few weeks, I'd entertain potentially leaving. Spoke to my family about it. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. They believe that there's something more than just the corporate world. So they were very supportive. Of course, they said, make sure that you have a safety net. So over the last 3 years, I've been very frugal with my savings. Like right now, I'm not taking a salary. So obviously, like I have to figure out how to pay for life. So you shouldn't just jump and say, I'll figure it out, but jump and at least have some safety measures in place. But I think I've always been someone where, if shit hits the fan, I can always figure it out and find different ways to make money, make ends meet. I'm someone who, if I have to eat ramen noodles and sleep on it, like I'm literally couch surfing in New York. I think the founder life early on is the dog days, and every dollar that we make is going back into the business, not into my bank account to go live a lavish life in Ibiza. I've always been very frugal in how we run my personal finances and the business finances. And then I just had some conversations where someone said, those I'd bet on you if you were a stock, or if you're an NFT, I'd buy all your NFTs today. And I'm like, they believe in me more than I believe in myself. And imagine if I bet on myself and went all in on one thing. And of course, it's not as glamorous as people make it seem in terms of the entrepreneurship and the early days, but it really is exciting to say, okay, like I am the master of my domain, and I'm the captain now steering the ship versus just a worker on the ship that someone else is steering it. And it's a cruise ship versus a speedboat or a dinghy. But you can go way faster in the dinghy and you can navigate much quicker versus a cruise ship that you're one of 100,000 and you move so slowly and you can't really change directions very quickly. I surround myself with friends who are doing incredible things, and they all said, I can't wait for the day that you quit and bet on yourself. And it was amazing to send that text saying, guess what, guys, I quit, like, let's go do this thing. And that's when the real work obviously starts. It was exciting, transition. And now this new chapter has just been just absolute heads down, building, grinding. But I was someone who I've always loved to build. So I said, it's the time is now.
Different creators or different people have different stories. Yours seems very replicable, being partly a creator, but looking more to build something within the creator economy. You're also taking a risk on the economy itself or this creator space. I think it's easy for people in this space to forget how new it is. It's almost like the internet in the early 90s, I think. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years as far as how it'll impact the globe, how it'll impact business?
So I think to answer this question, I'm actually going to give you two answers to the previous question about indicators of what is pushing you to leave. So I think answering actually your previous question for a second of the indicators that it hit me that maybe leaving makes the most sense versus staying. Again, I don't believe that anything is beneath you, but I think that you should understand your value. I've done every job under the sun. I used to work in the restaurant industry. I cleaned bathrooms, I bussed tables, I served food. I worked 12 to 15-hour days. I would walk, like food run, walk 15 miles a day on the sand. I was a beach cabana boy lifting those really heavy mattresses and crates and umbrellas. It sounds very glamorous. It was a really tough job. So I've done everything. But it got to the point where I was a few years into my career and I was drafting emails for my manager, or I was taking notes in a meeting that I couldn't say anything, being a fly on the wall. And then alternatively, when I ended up leaving, I'm now selling $50,000 brand deals, working directly with CEOs and talking about business. And I realized that there's more for me to do. I still draft emails and I still take notes, but I want to be the one in the meeting talking. And maybe I'm not at the head of the table yet, but I deserve that I have a seat at the table, or I believe that I deserve that I have a seat at the table. So that was one indicator. And the second indicator throughout this journey as well is really just thinking about what you're doing. So obviously there were some tasks that I said, do I really want to be doing these tasks? Yes, you're getting paid well, but I want to do my own thing. But I think, for me, it was just a combination of all of those and saying like the world's telling me something and pushing me to do something greater.
You didn't answer my question. This economy, though.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Where do you see it
Thank
going?
you. So the second indicator, other people were leaving their jobs. Other people were starting things in this space. So other people were seeing the bigger picture. And again, going back to timing, your job will always be there, or jobs in plural will always be there. But if other people are starting to have the same idea, it becomes a timing and a speed game. So again, could I stay at my job for another year and see if I get more traction and kind of half-ass it? Sure. Or could I quit, go all in on something, and the door might close? So that was the second indicator. So now to answer your question, where I see this industry going, it's completely untapped right now. I've literally confirmed, because I always say this and brands agree, it's the Wild West right now on LinkedIn in terms of this B2B influencer or creator marketing space. Brands have no idea what they're doing because they don't know what they want. And it's not their fault, because the LinkedIn creators, LinkedIn influencers have no idea what they're doing either. My job is educating both sides. And a lot of those early days is educating people on what the heck is going on, how to do this right. And even I'm educating myself and doing a lot of different test campaigns with both sides. So where I see this really going is I see the B2B influencer space getting saturated in the next few years, and only the biggest players will be most equipped to win when this tidal wave comes. So my focus right now is building the infrastructure for Creator Match so that we can survive the storm. And of course, you'll have these smaller players try to do one-off deals. I've met a lot of talent managers or talent agents trying to gobble up the top LinkedIn creators in an exclusive way, which is super interesting. There's talent managers for LinkedIn creators, which is like, you've never thought a year ago that would ever happen. Larger agencies adding a LinkedIn arm. You see people on the software side building tools. You see people on the agency side building the agency model. I could definitely say that there's just going to be more interest in this space over the next few years. There's going to be more money that floods this space as more brands come over, right? The prices will go up. Right now, the creator rates are pretty low, I would say. So the brands are getting a discount because there's not much demand, and because there's a ton of supply with the LinkedIn creators. But I think as these brands come in, I think the rates will go up. Only the best will be able to run the best campaigns. So, LinkedIn's interesting where it's not new. It's been around for 21 plus years, but the influencer space, the B2B influencer space is brand new. So everyone's still trying to throw things at the wall, see what sticks and doubling down. Like for us, we saw that sourcing LinkedIn creators is extremely challenging due to limitations with LinkedIn's API or native analytics. So we're building free tools actually to help both brands and creators figure out who's doing sponsorships on LinkedIn, which will be coming out a Chrome extension in the next few weeks. So that's where I think it's going. I think it's an exciting time. It's the most exciting time to be a LinkedIn creator. And if you're watching this or listening and you're not a LinkedIn creator and you're on another platform, ask yourself, what are you missing? What do you need to do to come on LinkedIn? Because I think it's going to be what TikTok was a few years ago, where the earliest movers on the creator side will build the biggest moats, get the biggest campaigns because they have those audiences in place. And the brands who move the earliest get those best rates, lock in the best creators, and the ones that really establish their presence in this space.
Something I'm seeing more of in this new space, and you're an example of this, it does not seem like there are the support systems or the dedicated businesses supporting creators. Teachable is an example. There are some like Beehive. Certain companies are becoming laser focused on creators. But a lot of the tools creators use are just out there for businesses or for other people. You, as someone who's building an infrastructure for this space, what are some of the prime opportunities for people who want to get in this space but don't want to be a creator?
Which side? On the brand side, the agency side?
And what support systems need to be there that people could come and fill? Are there other areas you see where creators need support that people could come in and provide it?
I think LinkedIn, not to throw any shots here at LinkedIn, but I think they're such a massive $1 billion company. Like on the ad side, they have so many parts of their business. On the LinkedIn ad side, it's a $4 to $6 billion revenue stream per year. They're doubling down on their subscription. They're doubling down on their ad revenue. Creators are just, it's a tough sell. Yes, it makes sense for us, obviously, but for them, is it a $1 billion bet? Probably not today. And a company that makes billions in revenue can only take swings for home runs. They can't take swings for singles or doubles. Singles or doubles could still be in the millions, right? So we're trying to fill that gap or that void to be the infrastructure to help. I think on the education side, we're building out tons of original content. You search best practices to run a LinkedIn creator campaign, nothing comes up. Or how to whitelist creator content on LinkedIn or price my content on LinkedIn, nothing comes up because it's so new. So we're trying to be that first mover to build all of that content as we're running campaigns and doing real case studies with brands like the Teachables, who are the movers on the brand side as well, to bridge the education gap. Second thing, in terms of tooling, it's not the LinkedIn creator's fault because there are really no tools to help you monetize your brand. And if you think about this gold rush, we, Creator Match, wants to position ourselves as the one to sell the shovel in the gold rush. So by shovel, I mean the tools to help the creators find the gold and the brands find the gold in terms of a great campaign. So what that will look like in the next few months will change, but we want to better equip LinkedIn creators to have the same tools that YouTubers have or Instagram or TikTokers have today that are specific companies built for those creators. No one's really doubled down on the creator side. And we want to build tools to not only help you grow, but help you monetize your LinkedIn brand. Even outside of sponsorship is kind of just like that first focus. But do you have better analytics? Can you create and schedule content? Can you think of media kits? Can you think of a CRM for your sponsorship? Can you think of APIs to pull all of your affiliate partnerships into one place? Can you pull your revenue from Teachable into this kind of creator operating system or dashboard specific to LinkedIn creators. So no one's really doubled down on LinkedIn creators. All of the companies out there building creator tools focus on every platform except for LinkedIn. We want to be that one company to fill that void and focus all in on LinkedIn.
And do you think that's true of other platforms as well, that there's just opportunity for these systems?
It's just so different. I think if you build for TikTok, you can build for Reels, you can build for Shorts, right? And it's kind of the same thing because they're all competing after the same thing. I think LinkedIn is so different. Even if you want to call it a social media platform, it has jobs, it has other things. And they don't need to rely on the ad revenue because they have a subscription business as well, of course. So I think it's so different. And it's funny, I hopped on to product demos with some of the largest influencer marketing companies in the world and platforms in the world. And I would always ask about LinkedIn, and they would say, we don't support it because either A, nobody's asked about it, B, it's not an opportunity, which I always laugh, or C, we've thought about it, but it's impossible to build for because of the issues of the API limitation, native analytics, et cetera. The response was, you would need to build something custom for LinkedIn. So then I said, okay, great.
Just go do it. Yeah.
I will go do that. But for us, we saw the opportunity. And also the most fun thing, I test everything that we do. So like yesterday, I ran a brand deal for my own brand, like my personal brand. And I used our Creator Match tech platform. And I'm going to be using the tools, the free tools that we're going to be launching in the next few weeks. I think also just some advice for the audience or even the creators, the builders, is build or create for yourself. What did you want as a creator in the early days that didn't exist? Maybe you're someone who was a car enthusiast and you wanted someone to talk more about leasing versus buying or this or that, and be that person that you wish you had, right? Same thing with the build side. We're building tools that I wish I had in the early days when I was a creator. Now I'm using them daily and testing them and finding bugs and finding, oh, let's add this. And it's so fun because yes, you're building for yourself, but there's a lot of other people like me who are LinkedIn creators who we always say that we're underserved, underappreciated, and underpaid. There's so much pain in the LinkedIn creator community. We're trying to change that and get them paid.
LinkedIn is especially interesting at the moment, but I feel like the creator economy is very much powered by educational content, one way or another, even if it's like authority building content, you're sharing what you know and growing an authority there. I also think it's interesting. We're seeing more and more people doing that not for the purpose of necessarily selling digital products or that, but just to build authority. And LinkedIn is a place where you're doing that amongst people who might hire you or coworkers. Do you have a sense or feel from your end, why is it that educational content or that this version of content where you're sharing your expertise has such a resonance with people and then also with companies that might hire you for a 9-to-5 or for brand deals or stuff?
I think one of the biggest differences about LinkedIn versus other platforms, the first one is that your account is tied to you and your company. So you can't go out and make really a fake account like you can on Instagram or Twitter or X, or they're going through an identity crisis, whatever it may be, and just be that troll to go out and comment something that you would never comment on LinkedIn. So I think there's less negativity on LinkedIn. And the second thing is, and this is one of the things I love, if you, and even listening right now, if you spend an hour on TikTok, an hour on LinkedIn, one of them you feel like you just lost an hour of your life and you started with finding Mexican restaurants in the West Village and then ended up on cat videos, shooting watermelons in South Africa.
Sure.
And you're like, okay, I laughed, but I literally just lost an hour of my life and I went through such a deep black hole of content. On the other side on LinkedIn, yes, you spent an hour on social media, but I connected with people in my network. I commented on a Teachable post. I did this, and it feels a sense of productivity. And I think that's a big difference. It's just healthier. It's not as toxic. You're elevating others. And again, do I think that there's cringe content on LinkedIn? Of course. And ask any true LinkedIn creator. We know that it's so cringe, but we love it. It will change as a lot of the younger demographic starts working at LinkedIn and a lot of more content from younger folks on LinkedIn starts pushing. You've even seen a wave of 2 years ago versus now. 2 years ago, it was all about, I'm happy to announce that I got promoted, to now that I can't believe I posted failure posts that actually do super well. So I think the narrative will change a lot. The type of content will change. It might get a little closer to what Facebook, for instance, used to be, but still, it's going to still be tied to professional knowledge, education. People go there, you'll learn something in that hour on LinkedIn. There's so much room for LinkedIn to grow, of course, but I just don't think that other platforms have the same thing. Even this past week, right? We're here in New York for Tech Week. You meet anybody at an event, you're connecting on LinkedIn. So it's not going anywhere. Yes, you could put LinkedIn up against the other social media players, but LinkedIn is not a true social media platform. So they have no competition. Facebook used to come out with something that ended up failing. Some other companies have tried. They have a billion users. If this was a poker table, we're going all in on LinkedIn. We think that there's going to be a lot of positive change. And we think there's going to be a tidal wave in terms of more creators wanting to be and create on the platform, more brands wanting to spend, and again, being that infrastructure in place to survive that storm.
You're in such a unique position where you're educating brands and creators at the same time as you learn like what brands want and then what creators want. Do you find that one of those is harder than the other?
So I think it's always the most difficult to get the brand because there are fewer brands than there are creators. So if you think about demand and supply, the supply is on the creator side in terms of the content that you're going to be sponsoring. The demand is the demand of the brand to sponsor that content. And it's always hard to get someone to pay versus paying the creator, right? So if I reach out to 10 of the top LinkedIn creators, I have a LinkedIn brand, so it's a bit easier. But it's not hard to say, hey, Jonah, I have $3,000 for a sponsored post. Do you want it with Teachable, let's say? Like, at least you'll respond. Getting the money from that brand in the first place is challenging. So you always will work with fewer brands than the amount of creators. On the education side, I think there probably more education is needed on the brand side. So a lot of the brands, every brand that we've spoken to, like they know LinkedIn. They are either like, oh, I've thought about a LinkedIn strategy. We don't know what to do. Or I've had some that are super early saying, I didn't even know there were LinkedIn creators or LinkedIn influencers. What even does that mean? And on the creator side, I've had conversations with some creators who are doing tons of brand deals and others that are saying, I have 600,000 followers. And I'm like, I've never done a brand deal. It's okay, send me your media kit. What's a media kit? These creators are way more established creators because they often have their own businesses. However, they're much earlier on in their creator journey. So just understanding where both are at and trying to be that intermediary to connect the dots. My days are filled with brand calls and creator calls, educating both sides. So I think in the next few months, few years, as we're building out some of our branded content as well, the best way to educate is through actual experience, right? So yes, can you read a blog on both sides on how to do a brand deal on LinkedIn? Sure. But the best example is walking a brand end to end through a campaign, walking a creator end to end through a campaign. And that's when you get experience, lessons learned. And we're trying to do as many brand deals as we can with the best, most established brands like the Teachables to find those learnings and double down on what's working and improve on maybe what didn't work.
We'll be right back after this short break. For you, focusing on this space, just personally, is there an impact that you're trying to steer or trying to have on this space as it grows?
Absolutely. It's a challenge every day because someone said, what is your ICP or who is your ideal customer profile? And we have two, right? We have the brands or the brand marketers or influencer marketing managers on the brand side, and we have the LinkedIn creators. So I would say the impact on the brand side is we want to solve the pain point of them saying that our current marketing strategy or lead acquisition or user acquisition or lead generation, is not working. I want to find a new channel that's not saturated. Everyone's competing in this red ocean in influencer marketing on the other platforms. It's untapped on LinkedIn. So the impact that we want to have is showing these brands a new channel that could work, that can still convert at a fraction of the cost of maybe paid ads on LinkedIn. So there's a ton of impact in showing them a great campaign and also connecting with great creators or influencers in the space. So that's the impact on the brand side. On the LinkedIn creator side, it's so exciting giving a LinkedIn creator their first paycheck. And every creator, like let's say you're a YouTuber and you've been, filming videos for 10 years, you always remember your first paycheck, especially your digital dollar that you make. And showing creators that it is possible. Maybe you've heard You've read our blogs that, oh, LinkedIn sponsorships and creators can monetize and all this stuff. But until you actually get that first dollar in your bank account, it doesn't feel real. And then you say, okay, let's put gasoline on the fire. Let me double down on my creator business. Let me build a media kit. Let me invest in better analytics. Let me invest in a content team. Let's post instead of 3 times a week, 5 times a week, and really double down on it. So I think giving those LinkedIn creators their first paycheck is the coolest impact you can ever have. And of course, that money can stretch to them, their business, their family, and do whatever they want, obviously, with their money. But I think that first paycheck is really exciting, and to show creators, hey, I'm a LinkedIn creator myself. I'm here to help. I'm not just another influencer marketing company or platform that is adding LinkedIn. We only do LinkedIn. We focus solely on LinkedIn right now. I'll tell you that we are made by LinkedIn creators for LinkedIn creators, and we're going to give you your first paycheck, or if you already have paychecks, we're going to add to that pile and really grow your creator business on LinkedIn.
It's such an interesting space at the moment. But what about just that impact you're having at the moment on a daily basis, on a bigger level, just if you zoomed out 10, 20 years?
Yeah.
How do you think about that as far as like a legacy you're leaving on this space?
Yeah, no, it's 20 years. I'm almost 26. That's 20 years from now. Look, do I want to be someone who pioneered the industry? I think, of course. I'm just trying to get through today and tomorrow. And I think it's like, there's a great quote. You're just building brick by brick. And over time, it compounds. And every brick turns to 2, into 4, into 8, whatever it may be. We're just trying to not only survive, but double down on what our users are asking for and really building for LinkedIn creators and for brands. So a brand might say, hey, I want this change in the platform. Or a creator might say, hey, all of our, like a lot of LinkedIn creators have newsletters. And a lot of us are on Beehive. Shout out Teachable and Beehive just at an event in New York this week. Can you pull in my newsletter analytics into the dashboard? I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And what if we actually added newsletter sponsorships as well as LinkedIn sponsorships, because they go hand in hand? It's not LinkedIn and Twitter. It's LinkedIn more top of funnel, newsletter is more middle to bottom, right? So I think the impact that I want to have is on the brand side is anybody who thinks of LinkedIn influencer, LinkedIn creator marketing, I want them to think of Creator Match and be the first company they reach out to for advice or consulting or a campaign. On the LinkedIn creator side, the best testimonial that I can get is not a testimonial, but it's an unsolicited referral, especially from a large established creator. We've seen those before where one of the creators that we just helped monetize got them their first paycheck or multiple paychecks. They say, hey, Jay, and I'm sure you're always looking to connect with more creators. Here's a LinkedIn creator. He has 600,000 followers on LinkedIn, maybe even has his own team and his own business. And he heard that you're the guy to help get him paid. And that is so exciting. And obviously the creator community, it's big, but it's not that big. So I'd love to be the person people think of I'm ready to monetize my brand and grow. Let me think of AJ and Creator Match. So those are the legacies. And I don't think you need 20 years to get there, but just every day, brick by brick, slowly piecing it together of just being that person that people think of in a positive way. Not, oh, he's an agent that he takes 20%. Like when we reach out to a creator, you keep 100% of the rate that we're sending you. We're not an agent. We take a percentage from the brand, not the creator, right off the top of the budget. So we want to get creators paid and put as much money as we can back into their pockets.
Cool. Can I do one more?
Yeah.
Are you good on time?
Okay. Yeah, I can go all day. This is my jam.
I love this shit. Yeah.
And one more thing, because we spoke about switching costs, right? And I said more ideas get generated when you're so deep into something. When I say I am so deep into this, it's like gross how deep I am. I'm thinking about it constantly. Yeah. And I'll be getting drinks with a friend, or I'll be out to dinner with whatever. We're talking about the Jets game this weekend. I'll be like, great idea. Hold on, I need to write this down. And you're like, what? And I'm like, sorry, we're talking, but my mind's also here. Yeah. Oh, so it's a blessing and a curse. 9 to 5, you can clock off. In the startup world or the creator world, when you're full time, there's no clock off. So you have to make sure there's passion before there's the income, right? Because that's truly what you're always on, always thinking the gears are always turning for better or for worse. Also comes with no sleep, but that's another story. We're so deep into this. That's why we can riff for 10 hours about this, because we're so into this and seeing what people are doing well, what people aren't doing well, predictions for what's going to happen.
I'm most surprised that creators don't just peace out at some point, because you make a certain amount of money, put it in the bank, live off the interest, be good. For you being on like the startup side of the creator economy, are you trying to go the startup route? Do you want to hold on to this thing?
It's a great question. And I think it is important when you get into something, you should think at least a little bit about the end game. I'm not a huge fan of the startups that build for the sole purpose of exiting.
Mhm.
Because yes, you can go get some institutional VC or private equity funding, whatever it is, for the sole goal to either IPO or to just get bought out. Do I think that'd be incredible, especially like getting acquired by, let's say, LinkedIn or maybe an influencer marketing platform that has millions in funding that wants to add LinkedIn to their arsenal? They needed that custom solution and we offer that. Sure. I think we've already identified some potential targets. Sure. But that day maybe will come, but I'm not going to go out and do outreach right now because it's a waste of our time and effort. We want to just provide the most value to the brands and creators. I really would love for Creator Match to be the tool or the shovel that every LinkedIn creator is using if they want to grow and monetize their brand. So if, let's say, another agency or a brand works directly with a LinkedIn creator and they're asking, hey, send me your media kit, send me your analytics, I want them to be using our analytics, our tooling. A lot of it will be free as well. And then the creators talking to the creator community when they're sharing a LinkedIn post of, hey, here are the 5 tools that you need to grow and monetize your brand. I want Creator Match to be listed. Right. So that's how we're thinking about it. It's like building the best and most valuable tools for LinkedIn creators to grow and monetize. And whether there's a massive payday or an acquisition or a partnership or a spinoff or this or that or whatever it is, to me, that is just background noise. And we're also just doubling down on the brand and LinkedIn creator value today.
And then for you personally, is there an end game? Are you trying to do the fire thing and go chill in the Bahamas at 40?
Yeah,
you said you're 26? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Almost
25
and 3/4?
Yeah. It's in 11 months.
So you're pretty early in it.
Yeah.
Kind of vision for that.
I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I love to travel. I think I've taken 30 flights this year already, and I'm on the road to every conference and every brand event and creator event and this and that. I would love to get to a point where I could travel internationally and work remotely. I think I've seen the stories of these founders or builders in Bali or Indonesia. And I'm a big surfer as well. So I'd love to surf for 2 hours in the morning and just work a crazy day in Bali, even if the time zones are like you're working from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. or whatever it is. But we're not there yet to where I can go on autopilot. And the business requires so much attention right now. So like, again, that is a goal in the future to get there. But I don't think we're close to that yet. And it's just how can we provide the most value to brands and LinkedIn creators? And right now I live in Austin, Texas. I travel probably a few times a month, maybe every other week right now, just to come to events like this. And we can worry about making more shiny objects in the future.
Love it. Yeah. Questions. And thank you for being here. It's been a delight.
Thank you for having me.
Favorite part of visiting New York City?
Favorite part of visiting New York City? I actually, hot take, but I've been enjoying the subway. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. I'm from Los Angeles. We do not have public transportation. And in Austin, it's just you walk everywhere. It's very small. But it's been pretty easy to get around the city, and I'm learning the subway system. So I would say the public transportation's been great so far.
Love it. Best barbecue in Austin?
Terry Black's, definitely.
Love Terry Black.
And I have to, I don't go a lot, but whenever a friend visits, I have to go to Terry Black's to take them.
Love it. How much do you sleep every night?
I might fall asleep right now.
Why Austin? Are you there for the creator economy there or just personally?
Grew up in LA. There weren't many other cities that I wanted to live in. It was either New York City, Miami, Austin, maybe San Francisco. So LA was checked off. I think I will go around different cities in my 20s and 30s. My sister moved to Austin a year before I did. Visited her, absolutely loved it. I actually live with my sister in downtown Austin, which is so fun. We're basically twins. We're extremely close. And also, great cost of living. We're paying half the rent of what people pay in New York and no income tax, which is also great.
That's nice.
And just the people are fantastic. The most genuine people I've ever met. It's been amazing.
Number one piece of advice for brands to be able to stay relevant and take advantage of this creator economy growth?
Number one piece of advice for brands is don't be afraid to experiment and try something new. I think it's very easy to follow the playbook of, I want to be the next Duolingo on TikTok. So we're going to copy Duolingo word for word and do everything like them. But you're not Duolingo and you probably have a very different business. Don't be afraid to test new things. And yes, it's hard to get, let's say, budget to do it internally. But again, the best brands are the ones that took a risk and made that swing. Like for me, the best people are the ones that quit and do their own thing, at least for what I'm trying to do. So don't be afraid to go out and dive into the Wild West and test new things. Maybe everything doesn't work initially, but you'll learn a ton throughout the process.
AJ, Thank you so much for talking to me today. Thank you for listening and being here. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jonah.
Cheers. AJ is a perfect example of how the drive to solve a problem paired with a healthy dose of creative grit can lead to business opportunities no one else could have thought of but you. I hope you learned as much as I did today, found something that you can apply to your life, and if nothing else, were inspired by AJ's story to take a hard look at your work life and make sure that it's working for you. If you want to join the thousands of other creative entrepreneurs who are building an income out of their impact, click the link in the description to join the club and learn how Teachable can help you do the same. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our recommended next episode linked here. Thanks again for being here, and we'll catch you in the next one.